Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Library Advisory Commission meeting today on Thursday, October 24th. Why don't we start with roll call?
Please state that you are here when called upon. Commissioner Moss. Here. Commissioner Wilson. Here. Commissioner Murphy. Here. Commissioner Chang. Here. Commissioner Hagan. Here. And Councilwoman Cormack is not with us today.
Nailed it. Thank you very much. We have time for members of the public if they want to address. Ruth Ann is a member of the public but isn't going to be speaking for that. So 2 on there. Then it's looking at the draft meetings of last meeting on August 22nd. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? Or can we move to
Actually, I think you need to approve the agenda first.
the agenda for this?
For this meeting, yeah.
True. Okay, sorry. Are there any agenda for this meet? Thank you. Any agendas? I just kind of got really excited. Any agenda changes, requests, or deletions for today's meeting? Okay.
So then you need to take a vote. You do have to. It says action.
Action.
So
So
motion to approve.
Can I just make the motion?
You can.
All right. A motion to approve the agenda as currently is. All in favor?
Second it.
Do we need to second it?
Yeah, technically.
We're good. Can anybody second the motion that I just
Anybody
put
can.
forward?
I'll second it.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nailed it.
Now we're behind schedule.
No, we're right on schedule. We're doing great. Next is approving the draft meetings of our last one. I can't remember if I asked for changes, requests, or deletions. So I'll ask now. Any changes, requests, or deletions for last meeting's minutes?
Move to approve.
Cool. Move to approve. I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Awesome. Passed. We're there. We're on to item 2, which is the memo on the reauthentication and network policy. I think this was something that, Commissioner Hagan asked about this, and we'll be hearing from Gayatri.
Thank you. There was actually a letter, the person that had asked this question had also sent a letter to the city and was answered by the IT department. So I have attached a letter with that. And as we were talking last time, it is this IT limitation of the 2 hours, so the reauthentication needs to happen. So, and the explanation is there.
Thank you. Are there any questions about the reauthentication?
Has there been any follow-up from the patron?
Not that we know of.
That's okay. And I will add that we are asked this periodically, sometimes by the same customer and different customers. And we always ask IT, can you take a look at this? But their reasoning in terms of the cybersecurity remains the same as a best practice.
Any other questions about the 2-hour reauthentication? Okay. The next item is library programs. I believe that is this gray slide back here. And we have Ruth Ann Garcia. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Ruth Ann Garcia. I'm the manager of the Mitchell Park branch, and I also oversee adult, youth, and outreach services for the system. I was asked to answer a few questions about programs today, so I designed, I designed this to answer some of the questions that were posed. So our programming strategy the question was programming strategy when the new libraries opened. We had started experimenting maybe in about 2012. This was certainly before all the buildings were done and we actually had programming space. to do events. Wow, this is a very sensitive trackpad. We had established a set number of programs that we wanted to do per month, like targeting kids audience, an audience, so like 2 special kids programs a month, 1 adult a month, some teen events. We tried focusing on particular days so customers can get used to Teen Tuesdays, Kids Wednesdays, Adult Thursdays. They know that something was happening at the library on those days. We had special set programs that we always wanted to make sure we did every year. So we'd have big annual programs like the writing contest, storytelling festival, Lunar New Year events, special programs that staff want to do like author events, after school specials, hiring performers and presenters for all ages, short series events like Silicon Valley Reads, our tax assistance programs, grant funded events like The War Comes Home, which we did a few years ago, and some series programs like parenting workshops, crafty corners, story times, and those kind of things. We did have a particular focus for both branches when we opened. If you recall, Mitchell Park opened in November 2014, and then Rinconada the following February. And we did want to position those 2 libraries a little differently, and we've stuck to that for the most part. Wow, excuse me. So Mitchell Park, because it has a computer lab, we wanted that to be kind of the tech hub for the system. We have 22 computers in the lab, and we wanted to focus on more software type of programming, like teaching people how to use Word, Photoshop. We've done Google programs, coding classes, those kinds of things. We also wanted to make sure sustainability programs were happening there. We did want to make Mitchell Park a family place library, which is a nationally branded service that you have to go through extensive training and provide parenting workshops, make your libraries very family friendly with a lot of events for younger, particularly younger children. While we didn't go for that, we did incorporate a lot of that in the library. Our New Americans program, we wanted to start there. We certainly expanded international collections in that branch, and then we're so close to the adult school that provides all the ESS classes, so it made a lot of ESL classes. So it made a lot of sense that we create the New Americans program there. And then the Teen Advisory Board, we wanted that to be the hub for the system. Rinconada, we wanted to focus a lot on the arts and culture, so a lot of literary events happen there, local author events, humanities, the sciences, gardening. And then we did want to make that possibly a maker space, more of the hands-on hardware type of programming. And for the most part, like I said, we have stuck to that. With Rinconada, we wanted to really incorporate what was happening at the Art Center, the theater, the zoo, and those kinds of things. And we've had some successes with that. So a lot hasn't changed since we launched that strategy in 2015. We've pretty much stuck to the same formula, and it's worked pretty well for us. Some programs that we have ended, we've stopped a few story times, even though we still do about 9 a week, which is great. We've stopped some of those. We've stopped some of the series programs like the parenting workshop, family date night, crafting, our citizenship clinic. A lot of these things have ended because of staff vacancies, because of partnership. We had the citizenship clinic was sponsored by the International Rescue Committee, and they didn't have the resources to provide that monthly clinic, so we lost that. And some of them ended because we had low attendance. So we've kept pretty steady, but those are some of the things we have lost in the last few years. Programs that have been working for us have been those traditional youth programs. Pretty much any story times packed. We get up to 100 at some of the story times. Anytime we hire a performer, do some kind of craft program for kids. I'm really sorry about that. We tend to have a really huge turnout for any youth program. Cultural events have been very popular for us. The Lunar New Year has been really successful. Diwali, this will be our 3rd year. We hope you all attend. It's going to be November 3rd this year. It's a Sunday afternoon at the Mitchell Park Community Center. That's just been a really fantastic event that we've done. So any kind of cultural event, whether it's for Black history, Hispanic heritage, we don't get huge crowds for those, but people certainly do appreciate that we're making the effort to honor these communities. Teen events have gotten a little increase lately. We do have a great new teen librarian who's incorporated a lot of LGBTQI programs, a couple of craft programs, and some author events that have been pretty successful. T-Lab, we do work with T-Lab, who advises us on the types of programs they want to see, and they're really helpful in spreading the word to their cohorts at school about coming and attending these. I'll admit, they're more tweenish events and audiences we get, but we still get a good response to those. Tech events are certainly popular. Anytime we bring out Dewey the Robot, we get a pretty good crowd, and VR, anytime we've brought out the VR equipment, it's been great. Coding programs fill up pretty quickly. So any type of tech program that we do, that works really well for us. And then adult events that feature crafts, games, quizzes, topical kind of workshops, those tend to get a good draw for us. How do we plan programs? Well, we do have a long list of annual holidays, observances, and past events that we worked. We did this in order to make sure that we don't miss National Library Week, Teen Tech Week, a particular holiday or other observance. We don't always do a program for those type of events, but we try to do either a social media campaign or displays or something at our branches that at least recognize those days. We did update our strategy recently, and it's always followed our mission, our vision, the strategic plan, and the values that we have, and we've pretty much stuck to it. I mean, you've all seen this. You've all seen the strategic plan, and you see the monthly reports that come out. Where we do certainly target all of those benchmarks that we have. The programming team meets quarterly. We do plan quarterly. That way we can get into the Enjoy catalog in time. And it's a good opportunity for staff to just bounce ideas off each other, what they want to do. If people want to either help out a colleague or give some advice on something that's worked before, something they've seen, that comes up at those meetings. And we've recently started program ideation, which is a program or an idea where anyone in the staff can pitch a program idea. You don't have to be a librarian to do it, and we actually have had a lot of paraprofessional staff pitch ideas recently. We have a small committee made up of some staff who will look through all the proposals. We ask for a lot of information, like how much is this going to cost? How much time is this going to take? The audience, the demand for it, those kinds of things. And then it's designed to be a little more transparent so that everyone in the system knows what we're doing, because unfortunately we do have some staff who don't realize what we're doing, some of the events we're doing. So we're hoping that program ideation just provides a little more transparency for us on how we make decisions on selecting and approving a program. And then let's see. So like you might recognize these headers that you see in the monthly reports. This is part of our work plan, where we will target the same things. Again, these have been working for us since 2015. Literacy and learning, that's just keeping up with all of the literary events like the story time, summer reading, author events, all the book clubs we do. Learning would be STEAM events, writing club for teens, health and financial literacy events. We're going to try to revamp Adulting 101, we tried this last year for older high schoolers, young college-age kids who need to learn how to open a bank account or something like that. So we're hoping to redo it again. We've got some more ideas for that. Civic engagement, we certainly want to have more community conversations. When we do films, crafting programs, T-Lab, it's just a good opportunity for people to get together and socialize and network. And it gives us a lot of good feedback for some of the things that people really do want to see in the libraries. We want to strengthen our community partnerships. A lot of what we do is done by volunteers, like our tax assistance program that's done by Stanford Law students, the Saturday board games, Tai Chi, the Medicare event. These are all people in the community that are just offering their time and expertise to provide these events for us. And we're really grateful. A lot of stuff we can't do without them. We certainly know we do have a big need for more tech programs. We get a lot of, when we do like coding and some of the more advanced tech programs, we certainly get a lot of people coming in, but on the day-to-day, we see a lot of folks with just kind of they have real basic needs and help. So we're hoping to do more like Microsoft workshops, have Google come out again, those kinds of things we know are really important. And then just helping people navigate all the digital resources we have. Anytime we do a tech petting zoo, that's always a good draw for people to come in and learn how to download an ebook to their Kindle, to their new device or something. And then our Celebrating Cultures initiative, that's been a big success for us, and we'll certainly continue with that. We hope to add more bilingual story times too to that. Things that can be improved, well, we know we can certainly do better, and a big part of it is our marketing and publicity. There's so many times we run into people that have no idea of the events that are happening at the library. So this year we've created a few different marketing teams that will focus on displays, social media, various print and online channels that we have. We're trying to rebrand some of our flyers and trying, we have all these channels, like Enjoy Catalog, the city's website and stuff. We did experiment with email from February to August, which was pretty successful. And we're hoping to find a new platform to use, because that certainly worked really well for some of our events this past summer. So we hope as it stands right now, the programmer is kind of in charge for their own publicity and marketing, but we're hoping if we have people that are really focused on it with a little more expertise, that can really help get the word out. And then certainly outreach is really important. We have a lot of great anecdotes from people who leave our events that they're certainly happy and they're really appreciative, but we have numbers, but we don't have a lot of data. We don't have surveys that we're consistently doing, so we hope to do that a little bit more, just to assess how people are receiving the events that we're doing. And we're hoping with the program ideation team, we can have really good, hard conversations with some staff to look at the programs that aren't getting a lot of turnout, to either revamp it, to sunset it, and to try something new. It's a little challenging for some staff to give up something that they might really love, but our return on investment's really important to us too. And we hope we have more community conversations. We are sending more staff out to the Harvard Institute, where we learn how to look more outward and to the community, go out more and see what they really want us to provide. A lot of us go to a lot of conferences and we see what libraries are doing and we think, oh, that'd be great to start here, but some things just might not pan out in a particular community. And what's really going to be helpful for us is going out and seeing what people really, really want in our branches. So I hope I've answered the questions, and I'm certainly open if you've got questions for me, and certainly ideas. I mean, if you've seen something at one library and you think we should try it, we certainly welcome all of those ideas. We do the best what we can. It's a challenge. We do the best with what we can. We're competing with a lot of people's other resources, and time is certainly one of them. It's hard to know what time is going to work best for an adult program, for an author event, but we do try not even touching it, but we do try our best to plan, and the staff that we have are really passionate about what they do, and we're certainly open to ideas from the public, and we do get quite a few of them. So if you've got any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer.
Cool. I just want to say thank you so much for sharing the presentation and walking through it. I feel like we have such amazing programs, which is part of like Innovator Award. I feel like on that, very representative. Do other commissioners have a question? Good, please.
I wondered if you had very many members from the community contacting you and saying, gee, why don't you offer such and such, this program, this activity, whatever. Do you get much of that, or just once in a while?
I will say honestly, once in a while, I'll do get an email, people forwarding me something, oh, you should try this. And if we can pursue it, we certainly will. When we ended a lot of programs, I was quite surprised, especially a lot of the story times that we have had for years. I didn't hear anybody asking what happened when we've ended things. I mean, I'll hear comments like, oh, I really miss those great Harry Potter events you used to do and stuff. And we certainly want to bring those kinds of things back, but we don't hear a lot about why we've ended things. And I don't get too much of why aren't we doing this. But it does come up occasionally. And if we can pursue it, we certainly do. If that answers it.
Thank you very much
Sure.
for your presentation. I wondered if you might talk a little bit about your success metrics. So you've talked, it's been very helpful to hear that, sometimes things aren't getting a lot of attendance and we move things around, and sometimes, we're trying to move forward with by replacing things that have been used and not always well attended. But if you could talk a little bit about how you look at success besides head count, and where you get that information from.
So I'll be honest, we have really only been looking at the head count, but I know with program ideation, where it's, because this has come up more recently, we are certainly looking at other ways we can look at our programs. We hope the surveys might help. We've attempted to do kind of outcome-based metrics and stuff, but that honestly it does take a lot of work, and it's been a little difficult to get staff really behind that particular thing. But we're hoping with program ideation, our team does come up with some real metrics for us to kind of judge the programs that we're doing this year. I don't. Did you have anything?
I just wanted to add that one of the things that we do think about through the program ideation that actually started the program ideation was the fact that, like what you said was success is in a story time that is for kids with on a spectrum, you cannot have more than 20. And so when we have 20, that's success. But for a Diwali program, last year we thought 200 and we got 425, so that we really wildly exceeded our own things. So we do have some idea how that's going to end up, but we don't know. Like right now, sorry. Yeah.
How have you, then to follow that very interesting, very helpful thought, how do you use citizen input to help assess success?
Input from
users, patrons, advisors.
So we have started doing some good survey. In fact, Ruthen's the one that has been pioneering that. We also realized that when we ask people to go home and do a survey, most of them don't. So we've been doing some quick and dirty.
Yeah.
Exactly. So she actually has a huge board there, and then she'll ask, as they're leaving, we have somebody at the exit asking these questions, and then we start tracking, like, how did you hear about the program? And not surprisingly, we hear, like, my friend told me. So it's really the word of mouth is still very, very powerful. And then we also, like, they'll say, like, I saw it on the city website. A lot of people do use our website, so we can see that correlation.
Do you have user groups or other constituency groups?
For the teens, definitely. That's why the T-Lab, which is a teen advisory board, they are our biggest representatives, and they bring back the feedback as to what they would like to see. And, they've gotten some really very, very interesting ideas that, frankly, I don't think we would have ever thought about. And so it is something. And the Harvard, the training is actually designed to do these community conversations. We actually had Two of our librarians actually went to a bar and had a community conversation there. And it was not designed mostly to ask questions like, what programs would you like? It is more like, what are your needs? And interestingly, in that conversation, we found out that a lot of them had commute issues, and that's not a surprise. So it has been very useful understanding. One of the interesting things is like whenever we had more targeted ones, people still bring up that issue of connectivity in this community. So part of the thing that we think is like we do this where we bring people together. So yes, we do use the user group, but I think going forward, we need to be even more strategic about it and plan those out.
So I did want to mention that in this time period, looking back to 2015, the state library worked with summer reading program outcomes. So we had partners who we worked with. We used teenage boys one summer. We used ESL families one year, and then we also used like early childhood. So we did actually a pre and post survey of participation in the summer reading program. So we have done work at that level. I think in different years we have different partners, different staff involved, and so it's not always done, consistently or for the same programs, which is one of the barriers that I think libraries always have, where you have maybe a program on resume writing or coaching on job interviews, and then you don't see that person coming back. So the assumption might be, oh, they got a job, so they're not able to attend anymore. But we've done a number of different processes over time. And the other thing with the tech group is they have done, the E-branch has also done focus groups for asking people to talk about technology as part of their assessments. And the EDGE assessment that we've done 3 times now over, I think, 6 or 7 years, which looks at not only the number of programs, but the capability of presenting particular programs. So the connectivity is an issue, or for us it's not an issue, but for other communities it might be. So we're, in that way, comparing apples to apples.
Great, thank you. I'm listening hard as and taking up far too much mic time to understand a little bit more about how you use citizen input, and I appreciate your answers.
Do you have another question?
If you had a comment.
My comment is that we're 10 minutes over time, but if you have a really quick question, Ruth Ann has an amazing answer.
Yeah, I don't know if it's quick, unfortunately, but we'll see. Thanks, Ruth Ann, for coming in. This is great. I don't know if you remember, we met, I think it was about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Before I was on the commission, Health Happens in Libraries. You were nice enough to tell me about New Americans, which at the time you were introducing. I think it was one of our first programs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it was a great example. And at the time, I know you were also transitioning Mitchell Park Library,
Yeah.
and, from the temporary space, and then the new library opened. So, phenomenal work on all of that. And thank you for taking this on and leading this effort and supporting everybody on it. When the new Mitchell Park Library opened, and there was a lot of excitement about the new facilities and, of course, programs as a new way for people to experience libraries, or a better, an increasing way, not just books. And so this is really important, right, about who we are and why we spent all this money on these facilities. So to see the pictures of these wonderful rooms getting used for all these great topics is great. And I've been to a few of them myself. So it's really what I think new libraries are all about. So it's really important. And, all that talk over the years through various commissions, this is I think the best and fullest report we've gotten on all those programs, and there's enough of time and track record now. So I think it's really wonderful, so I appreciate it. I think one of the reasons it came up was what we see on the commission, and maybe what the public sees through the reports, is just the numbers.
Sure. Yeah.
and they've been going down the last few years, you know, and we heard some about that last time in terms of the limitations and the obstacles with staffing. So it's great to get the qualitative, you know, and hear about the quality of the programs. But I guess my question or comment, and if I'm going on too long, I apologize, is really around that, you know, metrics, and is there a goal beyond the number? Because my concern is if we're going to have these limitations and we're going to focus on quality and people see these numbers going down, they're going to get the wrong idea, right? Or come to the wrong conclusion. Are there qualitative goals, or is there a conversation maybe about putting those in place? So when the time comes, it's not just how many events did we have? Because I think when we first started out, it was fill the rooms, do it again, do more. Right. And you burn out, and you know, it's not the right strategy, as you said. So I guess I just encourage us, or you, or I'm curious, you know, what are those non-quantitative goals that we can shoot for?
Sure. Well, I'll admit we don't have them yet, but I know certainly that's our plan with program ideation, to have those. Because we know, I mean, like I said, we get a lot of great comments of people coming out and they really appreciate things, and we know the numbers really matter. But in the end, it'd be great if we could really do good outcomes-based type of surveys with folks, like a before and a post of how this program might have changed their life or might have improved something, taught them a new life skill, those kinds of things. Those do take a lot of time, but we do hope to incorporate something like that. A lot of us go to conferences and we go to these types of workshops on how to do more qualitative measures and outcomes, and it's great, and we know we do need them, but I'll admit it's a lot of work that goes involved, and we put in a lot of work for the program, and I want the staff, the people that put the program together, to get real satisfaction themselves from what they know. And I know if we had something in place like that, I think they'd probably feel a little more fulfilled themselves. And ultimately, it's for the community, and we want them to have the ultimate fulfillment of attending these events. And I didn't talk, one of the things we talked about doing but haven't also really, I'll make it quick, sorry, is to kind of change the language that we use, because programs, we know what they are, but maybe a lot of people outside of the library world really don't. So I've read and gone to workshops where we should change them to events or to workshops or to classes. That way people might be able to identify that more, because when you say a library program, well, in the library world we know what that is, but maybe somebody new to the country where libraries don't exist like they do here might not really know what a library program is, but they might understand like a class or a workshop where they can, you know, learn something. So that's one of the things we should also think about, is kind of changing the language that we use when we're talking about programs.
Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you. I appreciate the time. I'd be happy to hear from and talk to you more off topic. And Mike, thanks. And thanks for your help.
All right, our next item on the agenda is a review of the purpose and duties of the Library Advisory Commission. This is kind of in preparation for the number 5 discussion. I wanted to, in your packet, there's like this Palo Alto Municipal Code, and then it's also kind of copied over on the website. Just wanted to kind of ground us in our mission statement as a commission. So I'll highlight maybe some parts of this 2.24.050. That the Library Advisory Commission is to advise the City Council relating to the library, but excluding daily administrative operations. And so there's a number of things that we're supposed to advise the City Council on, such as the goals and services. I think the programs today kind of count like those services. Things in the future, major gifts of money, construction renovation. Some of those things have been more in the past. Reviewing state legislative proposals, proposed budgets, if the City Council assigns stuff from time to time, receiving community input, and fundraising efforts. And then it says we don't have a lot of power down at the bottom. So I just want to kind of ground us that those are, the purpose of this organization is looking towards City Council, and that that the reason that this exists was to be able to help them to make decisions and to take actions. That's the end of reading this. After this now, I believe when you were going to be sharing a presentation with us.
Yes, I do.
So I will just, so you have these in your packet, so you're able, we wanted you to be able to have time to review what we've done. And we picked the last 5 years because, oh, sorry, no. And so just wanted to clarify that this was included in your packet to give you time to review. We looked at the last 5 years because that covers the time since all of the buildings have been open and operational following the $76 million bond act that was approved by the voters. So again, we have the next slide, which gives you sort of an overview of the municipal code information that you saw, looking at the purpose of the LAC and why it was created. Next slide. Which was established in 1999. The following that creation, one of the biggest tasks that was in front of them was actually preparing the community to approve the Bond Act. That was one of the things that they were working on. And what's called the LISMAR, the Library Service Model Analysis and Recommendations, is one of the key documents that came out of that time period, guiding what the community needed, reporting on what the community needed, and guiding the work that went into designing the buildings for renovation. So while there was a bond to renovate or replace 3 of the 5 buildings, all 5 buildings have been renovated to a certain extent or remodeled in some way. And then in 2012, there was a subcommittee focusing on the library's website when I originally joined, and that subcommittee worked to provide recommendations on the e-library, which could be termed a 6th branch. So the staff support the LAC. It's about 20 hours per month total between 3 staff, although, Ruth Ann coming on an evening, developing a presentation, Diane Lai coming, developing a presentation, or meeting with subcommittees, and subcommittee members are all a part of that. So it's preparing the agendas, putting things together for presentations, coordinating any events or conference training, or meeting with the subcommittee folks. And so when we are working to prepare information, even though there may be a subcommittee from the LAC, often the LAC is looking to the staff for support. It just depends on who has selected which subcommittee or a subcommittee to be involved with. In many cases, those presentations have been developed completely by the subcommittee. In other cases, it's completely by staff. And then there are those presentations where we talk about new services, we report on activities, and we provide more extensive reporting on what's going on in the library or something that the LAC has requested.
I'm sorry. You mentioned subcommittees a couple times. I'm a very new member and wonder what the subcommittees are and how often they meet.
There are no subcommittees at this point. when I first came to the library, there were subcommittees that focused on particular areas of interest on behalf of the LAC. So it would be two members meeting, whether they were interested in learning about teen services or developing recommendations. That's how the virtual library subcommittee formed, meeting with staff and developing either recommendations or the foreign language, that was a subcommittee project. One of the things that we did discover is that per the council rules and commission rules, those subcommittees need to wrap their work up within 6 months. They're not something that can go on for. There are no stand. Correct.
And
There currently are none.
When was the last time we had one?
Well, we're coming to that. So why don't we review this and then we can go through. So 2014, here you can see the contributions of the volunteer efforts of the LAC included Speakers Bureau, looking at an advocacy template and a community outreach plan, preparing to work with their council buddies, preparing for the joint meeting, and looking, they did, at that time, one of the special meetings was a board effectiveness workshop, and they developed a 2015 work plan for the LAC. And at that time, one of the requests of staff was Commissioner Moss asked to see CERC numbers by branch, and that was a time that we expanded how we did our monthly reporting. The next slide is 2015. So here again, you can see volunteer contribution or requests that commissioners made of the library. Some are not always acted upon. So for example, Commissioner McDougall asked about a ticketing system for the library to better manage correspondence. We don't have that volume of correspondence that would require that, and our responses, usually you see all of the correspondence that we receive and how we resolve the issues. At that time, Commissioner Hagan asked if we could rotate the commission meetings to be in all of the branches with the hope of, I think, expanding who might attend. And we did that for a year. And so the meetings took place in branch libraries, often at that time, either when they were closed, if it was downtown or College Terrace, but we did host those meetings there. So at that time, there were a couple of subcommittees. We had to do work with the clerk's office to find out how long the committee may serve. And then we go into 2016, where Commissioner Lloyd looked at comparative statistics. She wanted to find out how we compared to other libraries around the country. Then we had attendance at the CPLA spring workshop. There were requests for programs for information about College Terrace, 3D printers, and how the budget was developed. We go on to 2017, and at that time, Commissioner Loy and McDougall created a subcommittee to work with staff on the strategic plan, updating the strategic plan. And I think they had both been involved prior to that in 2014 or 15 to help the initial development of the strategic plan.
Yeah, I just add, in terms of your question, that was, they were the chair and the vice chair. So they kind of made sense for them to take that on. And then Don left to go to Parks and Rec, and I became vice chair. And so actually I was on that subcommittee as well with June. But they come about in different ways, and that's one example, I guess I'd say.
Okay. So we put together a list of the past LAC subcommittees. We were talking about digital resources and the different models. At the August meeting, Commissioner Hagan talked about some topics they could discuss, and then we got into the foreign language discussion, which was actually very helpful. We did a report and looked at, and I think that was actually sort of the last subcommittee kind of work, which was in 2017.
Yeah, thanks, Monique. That's nice to hear that it was valuable. Just to be fair, Bob was on that subcommittee as well.
Oh, okay.
And that grew out of actually a presentation, I think staff brought it in terms of the collection update.
Yeah.
And so that came from staff really, and then the question was, it was all the English language. What about foreign language? We had a new president at that time. The tone was a little different. How do we be inclusive? Do we have budget for foreign language collection? So we gathered a lot of info, and then the suggestion was maybe we could have a committee look into this, work with staff to come up with recommendations on how to allocate budget for foreign language collection if new budget became available, either adding languages or extending languages. So, and that ran into, I think it was the spring of 2018. So that's I think the last one I remember, unless Bob is a reflection on it.
Right. So and the outcome was, no, we've been cutting budget, unfortunately, over the last couple of years. But we did do a grant request to FOPAL, to the Friends of the Library, of the Palo Alto Library, and they did give us an allocation to beef up the collection so that the percentages aligned with the school, the languages spoken at home in PAUSD. And then the 2018 requests, we had requests about how the schools and libraries are working together. I think we had reported on the student success card, which was the major collaboration. And then there were requests for the volunteer program updates on Aspen and programming. And if we go to 2019, then you see the outcomes based on that. And out of the city budget development, we came to talk about the fines, and the recommendation to end the charging of fines, and then we're looking at the technology budget. And if you go, there's more on 2019 for June. So demand for classes, tech, and programming. So the program report was today. And the grant funds, I don't know what the plan is for that. But these are some of the outstanding requests that are there. We wanted to give you a sense of what some of the other similar commissions do. Having been the community services interim director for a year allowed me to attend all of these meetings as well. So the Public Art Commission has a specific, they really do have a different mission. They are involved in issuing RFPs for public art, approving public art ideas and concepts. They also have a separate budget based on public art fee, and they also look at the de-accession of public art. Parks and Rec looks at a lot of maintenance issues, a lot of programming issues, and was very involved in the development of the Parks Master Plan, which could be seen as an equivalent of the Lismar report, because it looked at what did the community need in terms of parks and open space and recreation space. Then the Human Relations Commission was formed to do very specific tasks in terms of their work with the council and preparing information on social and human issues in the community, and to work with nonprofits as well as to allocate grants to nonprofit organizations in the community with the community partners. So thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions about this aspect of the presentation.
No questions?
When, I'm trying to remember back, the Library Commission used to be 7, and it was changed to 5. Do you know when that was?
That is true. That happened. Let me look at I'm trying to think.
2014?
I think it was at the time that we were looking at the length of subcommittees. It was around 14 and 15. And at that point, I believe that the mayor had also put forth the idea that perhaps the LAC work had been completed with the ending of the construction project. Thank you. And the LAC went back and looked at the meeting schedule. They were meeting in some cases monthly for a number of years while the construction was going on, and while those were relatively frequent updates, there were also times where the commission was meeting quarterly, and that was also one of the considerations. So they did reduce by 2. You're correct.
Yeah, and I think I seem to recall, actually, I read an article in the paper, and Councilmember Klein had said there weren't enough applications. And that's what triggered my email to him, and then him suggesting I apply. And then they switched it from 7 to 5. Now, I don't know why that was. It wasn't publicized about the openings, or people were not happy that Mitchell Park hadn't finished. You know, it was stuck at that time, even though that
Right.
wasn't the library's issue. It was a construction issue. So it was kind of an interesting time. But it definitely was, you know, an inflection point, you know, where you say we have these new libraries.
Correct.
You know, and then what are we going to do with them, kind of thing. Okay. Just, I know you were at the other meetings. The other ones all have 7, right? Arts and Parks and Human. I think they all have 7.
Yeah, I think they do
Okay.
all have.
All right, thanks.
7.
Okay. Thank you so much for this thorough compilation of all the work here. I just wanted to point out, I think still on this topic of the packet is the letter from the Friends of the Palo Alto Library, which isn't part of the presentation, but is pertinent to the next item. Second?
I'm
Sorry.
done, yep.
Okay,
yep.
no worries. So the next item is a discussion on disbanding the Library Advisory Commission. So this was a topic that was introduced briefly at our last meeting, and then we wanted to give it proper notice and have the full opportunity to discuss it in this meeting. So what are people's thoughts based on the purpose and the history and our present about disbanding this commission?
It would help me to hear a little more structure around what the chair hopes for this agenda item. What kind of process are you looking for, and what outcome do you see?
So it's just a discussion. It's not an action item at this point. And so I think before, some people felt like this was a surprise. And so part of it was giving the 2 months for everyone to collect their thoughts and information. I know that Commissioner Hagan specifically also didn't want to talk about it at all. And so I really want all 5 of us to share our thoughts about it so that we can have a discussion on the topic, just like anything else. So at the end of this discussion item, there isn't a motion. It's just discussion, but I would like it to be everybody's thoughts about it, especially, we have this great, we reviewed the purpose and this great presentation on the history.
But I think we can add color to that, which is that at some point, there's a recommendation that needs to go before city council. And so when would that be? Like, how do we get to that?
So in the next item, which is on the review of the deck for the joint meeting with council, which is here, there is a slide at the very end that includes a lot of our priorities, like marketing and publicity, revenue generation, the elimination of late fines, and then there is also the disband LAC until there's a need for more advocacy. That item is part of the deck, and so there will be an action at that about supporting that this deck go to council. I think the council meeting is scheduled for November 16th?
December 16th.
December 16th? Sorry. And so that's kind of the end of that.
So I just wanted to clarify in terms of process. I don't recall saying I didn't want to discuss it at all. I think I was concerned last meeting about how it was brought up in relation to the Brown Act. So that's just to clarify that.
Yeah, you didn't want to discuss it because of the Brown Act. Yeah, amen. Now that we've done the notice, we're kosher by the Brown Act. Would love to hear your thoughts, Commissioner Hagan.
Just a few comments about the commission and the library and how they might function together. One of the things I was interested in, there's a national citizen survey that's done every year. It's been done for the last 10 or 12 years. And members of the community were asked about city programs, services, activities. So I looked particularly at the questions relating to the library. How does the public look at the library? What do they see? What do they not see? What are they concerned about? What do they like? And for example, they ask about what the city offers. Things like police services, recreation centers, the built environment, and so on. And one of the items was variety of library materials. And 88% gave a high rating to library materials, which, by the way, is higher than almost anything else. Police services got 89%. So we're right up there with, and fire, I think, was also 88 or 89%. So we're right up there at the top, providing services that people recognize and appreciate. And one of the other questions that came up was, how many times, if at all, have you or household members done something with a city service or facility? And it turns out that 78% of the citizens have used the library during the year at some time. And interestingly enough, 15% use it twice or more a week. And another 31% use it 2 to 4 times a month. So there's 46% are using the library almost every week or more than once a week, which I think is pretty good also. This is higher than most of the other services. And the next one I had was rate the quality of the following services in Palo Alto. Excellent and good, okay. Variety of library services, 34% excellent and 34% good. Police services rated 34% and 35%. Fire services 37 and 25. So we're after police and better than fire department. Nobody else was anywhere in that range. Oh, city parks. Parks got a 47% and 41%, which was the highest of any operation. So libraries were one of the top 2 or 3 services that people appreciated. And rate the quality of the services. And the library services, they ask about the variety of materials. And over the last 10 years, it went from 67% high to 88% high. And again, the only ones that rated it higher in quality of services were police, fire, and ambulances. So the libraries are very much desired and used by the community. And I think obviously a lot of that's the staff. The staff is obviously doing a very good job because you're satisfying the community's needs. But I also think that the commission provides feedback and input that helps to continue this quality of service. And we have at various times during the years made recommendations for activities or programs that have turned out to be very, very useful and successful that the staff wasn't aware the community was really interested in, but we were talking to our neighbors and getting feedback from the community and putting it out, and they worked. So the commission does serve a function between the community and the staff. The second service that we provide is that we interact with the city council. Almost every year, there have been a few years where we skipped, we have a joint meeting with the city council like the other commissions. And this has a number of benefits. For one thing, it gets the council's attention on what the libraries have been providing, and if there are areas where the community wants services but we don't have the resources or the funding, we have an opportunity to bring that to council and say, gee, we think we ought to be expanding our services in such and such, and maybe you ought to look at that when you take a look at the next budget. And over the years, from time to time, depending on the circumstances, the commission has worked to get resources and budget increases for library services and facilities. And because we do have this connection with the city council, because commissions are supposed to meet with the council annually, we have an opportunity basically to lobby for the library and lobby for the community's interest in libraries. So to that extent, the Library Commission provides services that wouldn't be provided elsewhere or otherwise. So that's my take on what the Library Commission is doing and why we're helping the community and we're valuable. And I'd like to hear from the other commissioners and see what you think.
I'm the newest member, and I'd like to cut to the chase. I think that a commission is a form of institutionalized democracy. I think at this time nationally and locally, given the wonderful appointment and promotion that's coming, that the leadership change, it'll mean leadership change, that we need more, not less, democracy. And I'd hope that we would look at ways to mend, not end, what this is.
So I agree with Commissioner Moss. Thank you. That's a great summary of, I think, how well our libraries are doing. And I'd like to think that the Library Commission's played some small part in that. I do agree that we have staff to thank for a large portion of it. I do feel like, libraries themselves, there aren't enough places for these kinds of meetings or conversations to go on. They're not always the most productive, but I think they're part of the fabric and are important, and it needs to be there as a place that's available. And it's not always utilized, but just the fact that it's available makes a statement. I think that's partly where you're coming from. I'm trying to, given what was presented previous, I'm trying to take from that, how that might help us as a commission. I think one of the what's maybe not known to the public or to people who get involved in commissions is that most of the work goes on outside of the meeting. This is the least of it. And, over the years, I've served on 3 different subcommittees, one with Commissioner Moss. I know he's served on multiple ones. I served on the Aspen report, gave the opening remarks for the library there. And so, that's just that's the tip of the iceberg. And I know over the years, commissioners have put a lot in. So I think, your question about subcommittees, was very prescient, especially as a new member or a newest member. And it's important that we need to ask ourselves as a commissioner, are we willing to put that extra work in outside the meeting? And come up with some of the ideas sometimes to take the lead, and provide leadership around certain issues that, we think the community might be interested in, or we're hearing from the community that they're interested in. So, I think the work on our side of the table, outside the meeting, is really around subcommittees. So I'd encourage us to think about that and, really dig deep in our own selves to say, am I willing to put that extra in? On the staff side, I'm seeing, there's a lot of requests, right? And I get that. I'm not sure there's many organizations in the world that don't report to a board of some sort. I do. I've been in previous companies where I did. It's not always the funnest work, but sometimes it turns out that the extra preparation that goes into a board meeting really has been helpful for me or my team. It's not always true, but that exercise alone, I think, can be valuable. But I think it's incumbent upon us as commissioners to make that as valuable as possible for staff time. So, I don't know if there are too many requests, how we channel them, or we prioritize, or the chair works with staff to help agendize and plan over the year to say we're not going to do every request next month. We're going to do it in 6 months. I think that's something on us. But I think staff's putting in the work outside. The bargain is we need to as well. So I think that's critical to us moving forward.
A different perspective that I would offer is we just had the presentation around programs, and there was a lot of question around the metrics and the effectiveness. And I think if we look at the metrics for the Library Advisory Commission in terms of meetings with City Council, so in the last 5 years, that's 0, right? Number of,
I think it's 3.
3 years, okay. Okay.
3 years, though.
3 years, but same with the subcommittees, and, you know, there might be thoughts that perhaps we should be doing more subcommittees, but we're not getting requests for those. We're not, you know, it's not like we're turning them down because people are busy or things like that. There just haven't been requests. And so when I think about the metrics for the commission and our metrics for success, I think if it were a library program, we wouldn't recommend to keep that program. It's not, from my perspective, given our partnership with City Council, I would say it's not effective, right? And so we would recommend for any other library program, like, why are we doing this? Why are we spending the money? Why are we using staff time? Yeah, I mean, I think those are similar points to what we made previously. So looking at, you know, community involvement with City Council, subcommittees, we just are not firing on any of those cylinders recently. That's my perspective.
I'd like to thank all the commissioners for sharing their thoughts. I love Palo Alto Library. We are super users. I'm always embarrassed at the director's reports because I realize what high of a fraction my household is of those metrics. Our libraries are so good with our material variety and our high usage. So thank you for highlighting those. And we've seen those growing in the last 10 years, and I want more of that, not less. Our libraries are so useful, and our staff are so helpful. In our last meeting, we talked about fines, and we talked about how having a staff member spend an hour a day on fines wasn't the mission that we wanted the libraries to do. We wanted them doing more of those programs that Ruth Ann talked about that were so helpful. If we think of those 20 hours that the library director shared with us, I want more of those programs. Instead of preparing presentations, instead of preparing decks, instead of setting up meetings and doing all the work to put this together, which is excellent work, I want that to be core library so that we get those numbers so we can beat the police department, beat the fire department. Come on, we don't save lives, they're more important. But like, I think we can do like even better and give them more time to do that. We haven't had committees in the last since I've been on it, the last 2 years. And I think the people on this commission have done a lot. I think it's especially noteworthy to point out, like Commissioners Moss and Hagan are new institutions with this. They've been on for like 4 or 5 years. And in my mind, it's like, instead of us coming here and forcing the staff to do work for us, think of what work we can do. If we spent that time outside of this meeting, volunteering at this event, helping out with the Diwali, or all these other programs that are not happening because they don't have staff, we can put those hours to actually improving the access of the library to our citizens. When I look at these past years, I see lots of requests. I don't see lots of contributions. When I look at 2019, even the recommendation of banning fine, unlike some of these other commissions, like arts, that can approve, that can spend money, like Parks and Recreation, which repeatedly is meeting with council and sending stuff to council, Human Relations that is holding these forums, organizing these events, I see us giving work that only serves us for the evening. And so looking back, I see the Library Advisory Commission as having such a great purpose. I see it as having fulfilled that purpose. So that's where I think we needed it in 1999 when it was created. We sure needed it years ago in passing like the bond and supporting there. I see there to be just a slow decrescendo over time. And part of that's like not having as many applicants to go to 7 to 5. Part of that is us not having public here ever. And so I don't think that suggests at all that people don't like the libraries aren't valuable. Instead, they're so valuable, but what's the best way to do that? That's my thought is if we want the community's input, they send emails and we can see that they don't edit themselves in the emails. They share their full opinions with what they think. And we've also seen the amazing response of the staff to those emails. I see the staff as being so good that we can give them more time to do that. In our day where they can walk in and share a comment with anybody, in our day when they can find our website and send an email, I see the staff as being so on it that they can do this. I think it also calls back to our purpose, where our job is not to do the daily administrative operations. Our job is to advise council. And that's why I don't think it's sitting here going, you know, if we're just pulling in information but we're never contributing, we're never returning to council, then we're not fulfilling the purpose that the Library Advisory Commission is like set. So that's why I think we should include a recommendation to disband the commission. We've all shared our thoughts. Thank you all for sharing thoughts. Does anybody have reactions to other people's thoughts that they'd like to share? Okay. Do any of the library staff, as part of this discussion, is there anything that you would like to say?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for discussing it. We now go on to item 6. This is the presentation that we would like to discuss on December 16th on the joint session with council. Here we have a discussion and an action item.
Out of the gate, can we change the cover to December 19?
I was going to do a motion for that, but yeah, that sounds great. I think we're all agree on that one. I don't think. Are there other items in here? I know they've made a couple of other improvements based on the recommendations that we talked about last time.
We added the comparing Palo Alto to local library systems that was asked. Page number 5.
So, Gayatri, did you, they're really beautiful slides. Did you put those together or staff did?
It's a combination of several people.
On the staff. Mm-hmm. Well, thank them for that. I'd like to jump to slide 19, if we want to discuss that. And the last topic, because I guess that's how we're actioning on this. You know, the fact that Gayatri and staff put this together, I think is the case in point. That's the first time I've heard that happen. And Bob, you can probably back me up on this. We've done this, hasn't been for a couple of years or a few years, but the 3 times that we went before council, we put the slides together. The chair did, and the vice chair, and the group. And
Actually, that's not 100% correct.
well,
So,
we were more actively involved, believe me. I remember the meetings, we went through it. So my point is, I'd like to finish my point, is that, you know, it's what we put into this as commissioners that makes this commission. And that's what's important. And staff needs to know that we're putting the extra in, and we're putting the work in. And yes, it's obvious from their presentation, they're getting a lot of requests. Yes, when you go back to the contract, the charter of our commission, which we don't review on a regular basis, things have evolved, absolutely. And things change. So I understand that. But I can't support the conclusion of these slides on slide 19. So that's my comment.
So I was involved in these slides. We met at the library and chatted about these. We put them into Google Docs and worked on them. So I actually think it's quite telling of the library, so I was involved in the slides, so there is involvement between the commission and them. This isn't a separate effort.
That's great. They're the most beautiful slides I think I've ever seen us do.
That's good.
But I remember having to put together individual slides as a group. We put them together and we reviewed them. So the process is a little different, and I think it's reflective.
Besides the end of slide 19, are you seeing other things that are not reflective of our of the accomplishments and purpose of the library? Like when you said of us going to lobby on behalf before 19, do you find things inconsistent with the view of lobbying on behalf of what the library has accomplished? Or is it just half of, is it 1/40th?
I had a couple of comments. One of them was on the page 18, marketing publicity. I think we should expand how we talk about marketing the services. I'm not sure how much we should add to just create marketing publicity staff work groups, but point toward the sort of things we're trying to publicize, not just say we're going to publicize, but we're going to publicize events, or we're going to publicize programs, or whatever it is that we're talking about publicizing, so that the council has an idea of what it is that's being provided to the community that is important, that the community may not yet be aware of because they don't think of libraries as doing this, but we do it, and we've been doing it in some cases for several years. So I'd like to see the marketing publicity somewhat expanded, so we talk more about what we're publicizing and marketing. And then on page 19, I disagree with the last point, the disband of the LAC. I don't think that we should be suggesting that to the city council. We may want to ask the city council, how would you like to interact more effectively with the LAC? And that would, if they say we don't want to interact with the LAC, that tells us something.
I think, in terms of additions, I thought we had a great presentation from Ruth Ann, and, we talked about how important events, workshops, programs are to the library and to who we are going forward, and leveraging the investment that the council made years ago. So I think if there's a way we can address that in terms of what the plan is or the strategy going forward, that would be great. Because I don't want them to look at those numbers and see them going down and think that they're not getting a return on their investment, which isn't the case, obviously. So I would propose we add something about that.
In support of that, too, returning to Brigham's very helpful introduction to us at the beginning of the meeting about the purpose and duties. We're supposed to review and comment on fundraising efforts on behalf of the city library, and clearly the grants and gifts that have enabled all the different programs form the basis for our being able to do these kinds of things. And I suggest that the presentation deck highlight the amount of grant funding.
Well, so I do think funding isn't directly mentioned in here. I do think programs, like we talk about celebrating cultures and the Maker Faire and technology. I feel like that's what I think the prettiest slides with the pictures talk about those programs. So are you missing a whole section, or is it that you want more of just the future of programs instead of because some of these are things that are continuing onwards that we will not be stopping.
Correct, but there are things like the Maker Faire, or for example, the grants that gave rise to the robot or the virtual reality, that's actually helped us build and built out the sixth branch. And so I think we make a strong case for the programs and back it up with a strong justification for our own entrepreneurial ability to go and look for funding.
One option for the last slide is, instead of saying to disband, would be to say something like review the purpose and the contributions of the LAC. Would that sort of wording be amenable to you, Commissioner Moss?
I think that would be helpful, and one of the things that I was thinking we might consider, I don't know if it'll work, is in the technology area, try to get representatives from the local tech companies, Facebook, Google, HP, Varian, to come in and make presentations on programs that they're operating, or the technology in general, or things that they see forthcoming in the future, or problems that they've popped up on the internet. People are trying to scam you. This is what to watch for, that sort of thing. And if we can get 2 or 3 people from these big companies making presentations at the library facilities, I think that would get a lot of people active and involved, and it would certainly bring the teens and the children in.
Just a clarifying question. So it's possible in the meeting with council that they could serve a resolution to disband us and vote without our recommendation, correct?
I don't know the answer to that question.
In talking with Councilmember Cormack, that's my understanding.
I think that could be possible, but I think ordinarily it would need to come, it wouldn't be at that meeting. It would be a colleague's memo, or it would come back later. It would not be an immediate action in any case.
Just playing out the possibilities.
Okay, so I've taken notes, besides legit notes, what some of these changes. Some of them are talking about the funding. Some of them are talking about what we're doing in the marketing and publicity. One is in the technology, talking about company workshops. And one is not saying disband the LAC, but to review the purpose and the contributions of the LAC, which goes on that side. With those changes implemented, I would make a motion to approve the deck for the meeting with the council.
There needs to be a second for further
second.
discussion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
We didn't have a discussion.
Yeah.
So usually
Yeah, you
the
can
chair accepts a motion and then there's a discussion, so.
Right.
I accept the motion, and now we will have discussion.
Oh, thank you.
Please.
Wonderful. I'd like Bob's language first. So
Which was Bob's language?
we'd have to look at the notes or watch the tape, but I thought Bob put it more eloquently, and I think it characterized more of our discussion, around how can we work together better versus reviewing our purpose, and putting it on us. So, I'm voting. I would vote no, because or amend it to reflect what Bob's language was.
So could we have so it's gonna be 7 words. I feel like we want to know what those 7 words are at this meeting, so that Gayatri and I don't work together and have 6 words and then you show up and are surprised and angry. So that's why I think it might be really helpful to nail down what those 7 words are. I'm not sure if we can get a word-for-word transcript, but perhaps.
why don't we consider this? We're making the presentation to the city council, and we say, we would like some feedback from the council on how you see the library commission, and do you feel we are still providing a useful service to the community and especially to you? And if not, how should we improve, or do you think we should just leave, just be disbanded? And put it on the council's, let's say, table, for them to respond. Instead of our saying, we think you should do this, we should say, we've been considering what we provide to the community and to you, but we'd like feedback from you, and we'd like to know if we're providing what you need. If we aren't, tell us, and ask if you think we can fix it, tell us how to fix it. If you think we've completed our service and you don't need us anymore, say so, and put it on their table.
I think that sounds great.
I'm in support of that.
It goes too far for me at this point.
Okay, so we could make a motion of not saying review and propose the contributions of LAC, but using the words that were just said, of asking for the feedback from the city council, really putting the responsibility on them, and asking for their feedback about the priorities for us and how we should change kind of the mend or end, I think using the words before, and asking for their feedback on what they see. So that'll be my motion for the wording for the end.
I'm not in support of the asking them on feedback for our priorities. We're asking
Not on priorities, feedback on what we're providing,
the contributions.
our contributions.
Yes, that's fine.
Can we all go to a bar happy hour after this? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, maybe it's something along the lines of, I mean, really it goes back to the purpose and duties, right? And how that's evolved. And if we're gonna have a constructive discussion, versus using that kind of against the commission, you know, I would say ideally it's something, you know, it's our priorities, 2019, 2020 priorities. I guess this is our priorities of the commission, or is it the priorities of the library? I don't know.
Commission.
But it's for the commission. Yeah, it was to say that, you know, we want to review our purpose and duties and get feedback. And that's really it. I mean, that could come from the community, it could come from council.
So,
I mean, that's always a legitimate thing. I mean, every committee has got to be thinking about its purpose and duties, right?
so I think that's like, city council, I think our discussion right now is a little bit colored because there's some people that support disbanding and others who don't. City council, I think it makes sense for us to go there neutral and not sitting here going, disband, and having that. And so that's why I think this language of like reviewing purpose of contributions is something like, hey, we want to do, like, if this is gonna exist, we wanna do more.
Yeah, but that's saying we should disband the committee because we haven't made a contribution. And why haven't we made a contribution? Is it because there's a committee, or is it because of the commissioners, or is it because our purpose is out of date? There's a lot of different reasons. So I'm not sure reviewing our contributions, you know, like a report card or an annual review of an employee is the right wording. You know, I don't think it's about our contributions. It's about our purpose and our goal. It's not what we've done. It's what we want to do. And it's what the council wants this commission to do in the future, if there is one. And so I think we shouldn't be looking back to say, oh, we did this right, or we didn't do that right, or, you know, these commissioners didn't meet with council enough. You know, is there something that people want to put into this that's going to make it something?
So your issues with the word contributions, but the word purpose you really like. Is that correct?
Currently, that's our charter. So, and that's where we intersect with council, is our purpose, and they've given us that charter. So if we're gonna have a discussion about the potential future of this commission, as it exists or as it might evolve, you know, certainly the purpose is I think a good thing to talk about, right? Let's review it, let's have a conversation.
Okay,
I support that because I think figuring out ways to get more, not less input from more citizen groups in this day and age is a better, not a worse thing.
Go democracy. So I think the headline then is feedback on LAC purpose and more figuring out how we can hear from council on their priorities.
And I will say that, so every commission has its own sort of way that it works. But for, I think, nearly every commission, that is sort of how the presentation ends, with a request for feedback from council, a discussion of what they see. The liaison will perhaps weigh in. And so what you're setting up is very common, is part of the typical meeting. And I just wanted to be sure, had you already done the meeting with the mayor and the vice mayor?
No.
Okay, so they may have input ahead of time as well. So that is part of it. So you and the vice chair will go and set up a meeting with them to discuss the program.
Is that something, Josh, do you help me and
Yes.
set that up?
So I will be in touch with the clerk's office, and that will happen in November. It's normally a month before the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We look forward to that meeting. Okay. It's just the library. We're not the fire department or the police. Okay, so the motion that I would move is that we are making some of these changes about the company workshops, programming, what we're doing. And then this last thing, we're not mentioning the word disbanding, not talking about contributions, but saying feedback on LAC purpose, what the liaison is seeing, what the city council is seeing in the tradition of city council meetings that happened in the past.
So I will say there is still a motion on the floor. So you can take a vote on that, or you can withdraw your motion.
Okay, why don't we take a vote on that, and then we'll go to this one. So the first one was on Bob's idea of asking for feedback on LAC purpose and contributions, and asking them to say how we should improve, better engage, or disband what we're fulfilling. So that's that first motion. Is there a second for that?
I think that there was a second.
All right, then we'll just do a
originally.
vote.
Yes,
That's what that one
correct.
is. All right, all in favor of that being the last slide of this?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right,
I'm sorry, Commissioner Murphy, did you?
It was an aye.
It was an aye. So 3-2, that motion passes.
that motion passes. So using Commissioner Moss's headline, we'll put that there. We'll review that with the mayor and the vice mayor. All of this will be sent out prior to the council meeting. Is it like similar to a packet that we do now? Okay. Okay. We are very much over time. The monthly director reports have been shared, and so I think instead of walking through them, I think I was pleased to see the September event statistics. We had a lot more outreach attendees. It was actually growing, volunteer hours, static, some other things have gone down. But if there are unless there's, I think we're just gonna skip it because we're out of time. Or do we have to have the discussion? Can I skip stuff?
No, you could just, you're able to go ahead. Unless there was something that we wanted to highlight, you might want to check with Gayatri, but. other
Gayatri,
than
is there
that-
something that you'd like to highlight?
Nothing except the Innovation Award that you all know about.
Please let the camera catch the glinting spotlights. That is really cool. Yeah,
I hope you all lift it up. It's very funny.
selfies afterwards. That is wonderful. The council liaisons she's not here with us today. Are there any other reports or questions from commissioners?
I just had a question about the presentation to City Council. Are you giving that? I mean, we'll all be there, but
I think it would be best if if everyone who would want to be part of it can be part of it. And so there can be sections where, like, if people really want to talk about the programs, they can talk about the programs. So is that something that we could organize over email and say which sections you want to do?
Yes, I would recommend that you have something in the notes or a script, basic facts, and, just a plan of who's gonna go when.
Okay, then I will, sorry, did you have something?
In the past, with our meetings with the council, all the commissioners have made some comment on an item or an issue. Sometimes it's just something that they're particularly interested in, or sometimes it's in response to a comment from the council members. But it's rare for none of the commissioners to speak. It's common for all of us to make at least a few comments so the council gets informed, and they also feel that we're all participating.
I'm totally in favor, and if somebody doesn't want to, this isn't forced. I guess this is public speaking right now. Forced larger public speaking. I think it'd be great if everybody spoke about it. But I think we can do over email, so if you want to look through the presentation and let me know what parts you're most excited about, then we can coordinate that.
Could you or staff facilitate that, please?
You mean like the emails?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And we'll wait to do that till after they've met with the mayor and the vice mayor, so that we can know if there's any changes that need to be brought forward.
And any changes that we have, we'll highlight in the email so that people know what happens there. Okay. That's a good question. Comments and announcements. I think the main point is that we don't have a commission meeting in December because we're doing this joint session during that time of that. So we'll meet at the joint session, and then our next one is like February. I think Josh has added all our calendars. We need a motion for adjournment. I move that we adjourn the meeting.
I second.
I'll second that.
Beat you to it, Bob.
She gets credit, I'm sorry. All in favor of adjourning? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Cool. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening.